Coming up on 21st Century, one man's courage changes the world. And from Italy, despair and suffering, migrant stories.
It is inexplicable and indefensible for the United Nations not to react urgently to situations of gross violations of human rights.
South America in the 1970s and early 80s. Hundreds of thousands of people were tortured, killed and disappeared under military dictatorships.
Our primary duty is towards the peoples in whose name the United Nations Charter was written.
He was by far the greatest human rights leader the UN has ever had.
My name is Theo Van Boven. I was the director of the United Nations for Human Rights from 1977 to 1982.
Theo a été le premier haut-commissaire avant la lettre, par son esprit d'indépendance. C'est Theo qui a ouvert la voie.
There was a lot of pressure of all kinds from certain governments, having their Secret Service agents in the corridors looking after what we were doing, following what the NGOs were doing, threatening people, putting pressure on other governments. Latin America had strong dictatorships, and NGOs couldn't mention government names in the Commission for Violations.
It is inexplicable and indefensible for the United Nations not to react urgently to situations of gross violations of human rights.
It was entirely unheard of that a human rights director would take vigorous positions. Everything that a senior UN official did was closely monitored. And so it was his great breakthrough that he decided to act and, in some instances, to speak out publicly against gross violations of human rights.
There is a tendency, at that time at least, that the UN should remain low-key. Some felt that I was too outspoken. Quiet diplomacy is perhaps what they thought, more productive than to speak up. I think this is a very questionable disposition.
En su carácter de director, ¿usted hizo algún tipo de gestión?
When, for instance, the coup d'etat occurred in Chile, a special public procedure was created.
The military felt that they had to give the impression right on from the day one that they meant business. Therefore, they bombed the palace of government.
September 11th, that was a dark day and a bit rainy. After that, I would say that the life of a whole generation of Chileans changed.
The military authorities managed to take control of the whole of the country, putting in prison thousands of people. They even put them in the national soccer stadium because there were not enough places in the prisons.
Son impact était très important grâce à Pinochet. Ça peut paraître curieux, mais quand il y a eu le coup d'État, Theo a pris l'initiative, avec quelques autres, de créer une commission d'enquête, et à l'ONU on appelle ça groupe de travail, pour ne pas inquiéter les États. C'était la première fois à l'ONU qu'une commission d'enquête, qu'on appelait groupe de travail, enquêtait sur des violations de droits de l'homme contre un État.
On the first day of our official visit, we had to pay a sort of courtesy visit to the head of state. That was Pinochet. He was sitting there all by himself in a tower in his office. The desk before him was clean. He accused the UN, the working group, of serving the communist purposes. This we strongly refused. It was argued that his country was known for committing serious violations of human rights, and we wanted to investigate that on the spot. In fact, the general became very angry.
The Chile report may well have been the first UN report that showed how the military dictatorship can destroy the living standards of people. And we could see it when we went there.
The international community knows through the investigations that were carried out by human rights missions from Europe, Theo Van Boven. We never thought that there would be the level of murder or torture or disappearance of exiles. It can happen anywhere.
The next big challenge for us after Chile were the disappearances, in particular in Argentina, but in other countries too.
Yo, Teniente General Jorge Rafael Videla, Comandante General del Ejército Argentino, juro por Dios, nuestro Señor y estos santos evangelios, desempeñar con lealtad y patriotismo el cargo de miembro de la Junta Militar.
One of the first things that Theo did was to open his office and our office to victims and to their representatives. Meeting people who have been tortured is very different than reading reports sent in by non-governmental organizations.
En el caso particular mío, mis tres hijos mayores tenían una militancia opositora a la dictadura. Y bueno, pero la víctima propicia fue Laura, la mayor de mis hijas, que fue secuestrada en noviembre de 1977. Estaba embarazada en el momento del secuestro y junto con su compañero fueron llevados a un centro clandestino de detención.
The mothers, the madres, the abuelas, they were very visible and well known, and as a group of committed women, I think, who were directly involved, that had a great impact on public opinion.
Disappeared children. The government claimed that it was all a part of terrorism and terrorist gangs. And the question was put, are these little children, are they also terrorists?
Theo Van Boven nos defendió, nos apoyó, se solidarizó con nosotros, luchó tanto. Era costumbre del matrimonio Van Boven recibirnos a nosotras que estuvimos en la casa de ellos.
In the 70s, I was in exile in France after having left my country. I started to work in the struggle for human rights, and I heard about what was taking place here in Geneva, in this very same place, room 17 of the Palais des Nations Unies. There was a person working here in this place, and this was Theo Van Boven. For the first time, an important person in the UN appeared to say, listen, in Argentina something terrible is happening. We have to pay attention to that. In terms of what was the struggle to restore democracy and human rights in Argentina, That was a very important point against the dictatorship.
Efforts were made in the Commission on Human Rights in 1979 to establish a working group on disappeared persons, but this was blocked by Argentina and others. Now it was a year later only that this initiative was successful, and so the working group was established in 1980. Rather late, but better late than never.
It happened in El Salvador and Guatemala, Indonesia, in the Philippines. We covered 15 countries in our first report. The next year, by 1981 and 1982, we could list many people whose lives have been saved because we were able to get a cable to the government telling them that we have information that this person has been kidnapped and they needed to release it. And that had worked and still works today for many, many people.
He was by far the greatest human rights leader the UN has ever had. That's what I would say.
I've always felt that our primary duty is towards the peoples in whose name the United Nations Charter was written. And I've maintained that whenever necessary, we must speak out on matters of principle, regardless of whom we please or displease, within or outside the organization.
Y esta lucha es desde el amor. El amor es el sentimiento que nos guía a las abuelas todos los días para defender los derechos humanos de todos.
Even today, governments make big efforts to stop the United Nations from investigating their human rights practices. And the question is, if it didn't matter, why would they make such an investment?
We do have to care for the dignity of people, and solidarity is an extremely important issue to make the world worth living in. If the average person only cares about him or herself, then that is a world of mental poverty. We should try not to set our standards on the basis of mental poverty, but on solidarity with fellow human beings, far away or just close by.
Ma chi siamo noi? Delle cifre, esseri umani?
You know, migration is the oldest adaptation strategy that man knows. In Europe, it's the biggest movement of people since World War II, fleeing war, hardship, and persecution. Many end up in Italian detention centers.
Che io con quel permesso di 10 giorni faccio di tutto per trovare un lavoro, ma pure a pulire la merda. Dammi una possibilità.
Adesso ci stanno 3 pullman vuoti, quelli bisogna guardarli bene, qualche doppio fondo e guardare soprattutto all'interno del pullman dove ci sta il camminatoio. Dove sta nel bottom? No, dove c'è il camminatoio, tu vai sul corridoio, ecco giù in fondo prova a alzare il tappetino.
I controlli di polizia ai quali stiamo assistendo riguardano le persone e i mezzi che stanno sbarcando da una nave appena arrivata dalla Grecia. migrazioni sono sempre esistite, fanno parte della natura umana. Il flusso migratorio, inteso nella sua accezione più ampia, è un flusso che in sé e per sé non si può arrestare. Non esiste un sistema per fermare un movimento migratorio.
You know, migration is the oldest adaptation strategy that man knows. Think about it, how people spread around the world through migration. So we're not talking about something that's just been invented in the last couple of months or weeks, now that we're paying more attention to it in the media.
Siete in grado di leggere la vita di questo soggetto. Siamo noi che siamo sul territorio e ricordatevi, noi la responsabilità non ce l'abbiamo solo per noi, ma ce l'abbiamo anche per tutta l'area Schengen, perché una volta che il soggetto è entrato poi si può muovere liberamente. Quello è fondamentale, perché sapete bene che alcuni entrano e poi si fermano. Si fermano, vanno in un altro paese, ripartono con un altro vettore. Questo non lo sappiamo. Sappiamo che non ripartono. Il che significa che è una massa che poi gira nei vari paesi.
I mean, the Italians, because they are closest, if you will, to North Africa, they take an enormous number. Many of these migrants and refugees wish to go through Italy very quickly and move on to Sweden, where they may have family, or Germany, where they know there's a chance of a job. So the Italians have been extraordinarily generous. They've funded the Mare Nostrum maritime rescue operation for 2 years. They saved hundreds of thousands of lives, and they continue to do so. But they're in a tough place too, because like every country, they have their own domestic politics, and there's a backlash against migrants. Migrants are not very favourably looked on.
Che ci dassero una mano a prendere almeno la possibilità di provare a avere un lavoro, perché senza un documento uno si ritrova o a rubare o a spacciare. Perché nessuno oppure ti sfruttano, 2 euro all'ora e devi andare a lavorare, ma con 2 euro all'ora di questi tempi non si può vivere. E ci ritroviamo qua come ai tempi di Hitler, rinchiusi. Sì. Poi ti dicono se scappi non è reato. Che vuol dire se scappi non è reato? Vuol dire che qualcosa c'è. Sì. È reato che loro ci mantengono qua rinchiusi dentro un centro d'accoglienza. Dicono centro di accoglienza, questo è un centro di sofferenza.
Siamo senza diritto, senza reati. La libertà!
Colleghi, purtroppo stamattina abbiamo molte partenze, ci sono i rimpatri. Per esempio i colleghi si faranno male, per esempio,
Although it's not necessarily a pretty picture that you see when you get behind the walls of any judicial system, but I would suggest that take the same view behind the walls of any other European country's judicial system. It's not going to be much different.
Allora gli ha fatto sotto alla testa! Morirca! Non problema io! Quando morire! Vai a palesi mia! Vai a palesi mia! Subito! Vai a palesi mia! Subito! Dobbiamo andare a Marocco! Dobbiamo andare al Marocco ora! Che aspettiamo? 7 settimane! Porca miseria! Ci bambini mia! E aspetta al Marocco! Questa non giusto questa! vai in Marocco, vai in Marocco!
Faccio di tutto per trovare un lavoro, ma pure a pulire la merda. Però intanto voglio stare regolare qua in Italia, dammi una possibilità. È normale che io mi ritrovo clandestino. Scusa, mi fai lavorare? Ce l'hai documenti? No. Mi fai lavorare? Ce l'hai documenti? No. Perché è il sistema che ti porta a delinquere.
Refugees are people who are entitled to asylum under the 1951 Geneva Convention. But outside of that group, you have a huge number of vulnerable people who don't necessarily neatly fit the category. Those could be unaccompanied minors, and there are tens of thousands of those who've moved across into Europe. Victims of trafficking, sexual trafficking. The biggest victims of trafficking are labour migrants who are being abused. So what are they? Are they economic migrants, or are they somehow fitting closer into the refugee category?
E questo è l'ultimo, insomma, l'unico contatto che ci abbiamo con la così famosa grande parola libertà. Un buco, come l'isolamento di Alcatraz. Democrazia, prendere il caffè da un buco. Grazie. Prego. Ma si figuri.
Non c'è di che.
La ringrazio. Oddio di cieli, abbia pietà di noi. Libertà, democrazia, diritti umani, civiltà. Ma c'è sempre quello che paga per tutto questo, diciamo tra virgolette, il benessere, la sicurezza. Chi paga? La povera gente. La povera gente sempre ci rimette. E voi proteggete sempre quella piccola ricchezza che ci avete. Avete paura. Basta che è un colore diverso dal vostro. Sta combattendo il nord contro il sud. Come ti posso dire? I ricchi contro i poveri. Quello che è ricco si deve ancora arricchire sulle spalle di chi? Della povera gente. Della povera gente, né di più né di meno.
So the victims really are the people who are suffering. A lot of the result of that is that people have a dim view of migrants, whereas the reality is that migrants enrich and help societies flourish, diversify societies, and without them, you're going to be stuck in a tough place. But the mood music, certainly in Europe, isn't very favourable towards migrants at the moment.
È tutto mani a mani. E chi paga? Siamo sempre noi. Ma chi siamo noi? Delle cifre, esseri umani? Boh, sempre un punto di interrogativo.
The UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, calls for stabilization measures in Europe, including strong support to countries hosting refugees and migrants, information campaigns on the dangers of the sea journey, and legal pathways to seek protection in Europe. Coming up on a future episode of 21st Century.
Me quedé sorprendida al saber que tenía un bebé en mi vientre por primera vez, porque tenía 15 años.
Girls becoming mothers when they're still children themselves.
Fue la sensación más horrible que he tenido en la vida. Avergonzada, asustada, perdida.
Changing the momentum in the Dominican Republic, where almost a quarter of all mothers are teenagers.
Nosotros como adultos y como autoridad tenemos la obligación de darles las herramientas para que ellos puedan protegerse.